Today, the topic is the rich are getting richer and what we can do about it, right?
Absolutely. I mean, we can see in today's world the disparity between the ultra rich,
Mhm.
because today we cannot just talk about the rich. This is like the ultra rich, how they're controlling and maneuvering the world. And we're
Exactly.
just like victims of their actions and their decisions.
Exactly. I was watching some statistics that were saying something like the top 1% of the population controls 50% of the wealth, which is insane. And it's like the bottom 50 something percent has got a very small share of that wealth. It's like 1%. So there are like 4 billion people who own 1% of the wealth. And then
Mhm.
there is 1% of the people who owns almost 50% of the wealth, which obviously, as we all know, it's really unsustainable. Now, what we wanted to discuss today as metanoia is not just why this is a problem, because we can all understand that this is a huge issue. It means that we run out, the democracy doesn't exist anymore because you can buy politicians. The education systems go down the drain, the welfare state disappears, and you sort of get into this kind of dystopian future whereby a smaller and smaller and smaller group of people controls more and more and more. Why you get it was 75% of the population, was 75% of the population as 10% of the wealth. So it's a very huge disparity that is going to affect us all at the end, right?
Absolutely. I mean, income concentration, not only these people have most of the wealth of the world, but also they have a direct impact on politics, on policies, on regulations that we, citizens of the world, we have to undergo. But they craft everything into their favor and always making sure that they're getting even richer and controlling the work, controlling the policies. That's where it actually gets really serious and really um affect us really directly.
Yeah, it becomes lethal, I would say. I mean, imagine the effort me and you we are doing. We are crafting out of our day some time every now and then to record these videos, to make these movement, if you want to call it, and the effort it's taking, because obviously all our time and resources, a good chunk of them, are taken by design to survive. So it means that the space people have to really think, to do politics, to improve things, it just disappears. It gets harder and harder and harder. And I would say that we are the lucky ones, that we got a little bit of time to do this. But there are many people that really are struggling every day just to get to the end of the month.
Well, I mean, that's the reality of the world because we got into this consumerism mode and life, whereas we need to have, Netflix membership, Prime membership, mortgages, car credit, anyway, like so many loans and so many things to buy for ourselves, for the kids, and we put so much pressure on ourselves. That's why we live in this what we call like a rat race,
Yeah.
whereas we can like almost like robots wake up in the morning, go to work, spend the day at work, come back home, eat, watch TV, sleep. Next day, same thing. So we don't really have that time to reflect, to think back of our consumption habits, our choices, even like what choices and decisions we make throughout the day will be in sort of like automated or running on autopilot.
And that's, I think, a very important topic to discuss, right? Because it all comes from the choices each one of us does and the belief that they can make a change. We spoke in the last video that you have more power than you think. And that is the core of everything, right? People think, people feel that, oh, what can I do? What is the point of my action? But if everybody thought like that throughout history, we would probably still be on trees, or in caves. So there would be no progress. So I think we all have to get into the mindset that we all have to do work to change this system. And what we want to look at today are give some ideas of the actions that each one of us can do and the actions we want to encourage or instruct or educate or make people aware that they can do so that we can slowly start to change things, right? And we don't have to be perfect. We're not perfect. But I would say that taking action now, it's the most important thing we can do.
Um, yes, absolutely. And just to stress on one particular point is that the rich and the ultra rich, they have so many tools that they use in their favor, like lobbying, or even like when we talk about the rich doing philanthropy because it's nice, but that philanthropy, that money they're given is not for free. It's
Mhm.
really in exchange for favors or for policies being changed, that
Yeah.
would advantage them. So they have so many tools, and also they have the tax optimization because they always optimizing their taxes not to pay taxes. So who are the people paying the taxes? Us.
Exactly. And it's interesting you mentioned that because I was looking into tax optimization and I was thinking, okay, what can I do to optimize my taxes? And it's very interesting because unless you reach a certain level of wealth, it doesn't make sense to use those optimization schemes because you end up paying more. But let's say that you've got from 5, 10 million pounds upwards, not that they've got 4 or 3 million pounds, but when you get to those kind of levels, you get to the point where you start to pay less and less and less taxes. So, what can we do? What can we do? I would say let's go through a list, and then probably in the next videos we will look at each item more in depth. But let's look at a list. The first thing we can do is shopping local. So we are trying very hard as a group, as a family, to shop local. What does it mean, shop local? Does it mean that you shop in your local area? Not really. It means shopping in small shops, right? Independent shops. And I'm sure, Safa, you've had some experiences of that, right?
Yeah, I mean, I'm still experimenting with this because I still have some old bad habits
Hmm.
of going to large shops and franchises because I feel like the service is the same everywhere and that I have this ability to exchange my product or get reimbursed. Whereas in smaller shops, usually they wouldn't reimburse. So
Hmm.
I have to be honest, and I'm still experiencing with this and trying to really go local and getting to know the local, like sales owners and shop owners. So that's
Exactly.
something that I'm still at really the beginning of experimenting.
Yeah, and we all are. We all are. There is a system that has been built in the last 50 years, and getting into a new system is going to take effort. But every time we do an effort, and rather than buying from an online giant or from a franchise, we consciously go out and buy from a local shop. And as you say, make friends, get to know the local shop owner, and let them know that you're doing that because you want to support them, their business, and that they should do the same. We are helping to shape the system. The other point which we feel strongly about is to shop less and perhaps buy used stuff and repair things because this whole idea that we have to consume, it's insane. The world has finite resources, pollution is everywhere, and we have to think before we buy anything, not only what's the cost to us, but what's the cost to us in terms of time, of buying that object, storing that object, deciding to throw that object away or sell that object, and then the environmental impact. So when you take all this into account, something that costs 10 euros in reality is much more expensive overall. Um,
Yes, this is very important because sometimes we can go to shops and we find products for like 5, 10 euros, and we're like, oh, it's cheap, let's buy it. And then at the end of the day, we find ourselves, like overwhelmed with products and stuff in the kitchen, in the garage, etc.
yes.
So it's easy to be to concede to the temptation because you're always tempted to buy things and sometimes buy cute things in some shop. But at the end of the day, you're not using the product. Maybe you're using it once a year and you're forgetting about it. Also forgetting that you have that thing. So one thing I did with my kids, for example, when they wanted like a new toy or a game, I'm like, okay, I'll get it for you, but in exchange, you give me two games or two toys from
Mhm.
your room. So that way there is circulation
Yeah, okay.
and we're not like bombarding them with stuff around. And also they appreciate what they have even more.
Yes, and it's also very good for their development, right? Because if a child is inundated with stuff and with things, he will get very confused. Instead, if he has got a few things that he really appreciate, then it's going to be better for the development. And this brings, buying things and buying less brings us to the next thing we can do, which is I'm, I'm a strong, strong believer that we should all be trying to use cash more rather than paying everything with cards. And I fully understand why we use cards. There is the convenience, the safety, and
Mhm.
all of that. But I was reading some incredible numbers, like banks make millions, like tens of millions every day just in transactions fee. Because every time we pay with a card, for example, if you go to a bar or to a restaurant and you pay with a card, even if you are paying, I don't know, a coffee, which might be 1 euro something, the bank is getting a few cents of commission. And this is a massive wealth transfer. And it's all these small wealth transfers from banks and from chains and from, filling your car with petrol, from all of these actions that make so that the rich get richer because they're getting all these small percentages from billions of people, and all those small percentages instead, at the end of the year, can make a difference for a shop owner. So it is tiring to pay with cash, right? You have to go to the cash point and
Especially like the change, like when you have to pay
Hmm.
like 11 euros 41 cent, like you're looking into the change. That's one thing that's not super convenient.
Yes, yes, and I think it's one of those things where I don't know if there is a good way around. I know that there are some systems that they're looking with cryptocurrencies, decentralized payment systems. I've never experimented with them. I would say at the moment, really, we should try to avoid to get to a cashless society, as they call it. Also, because the idea of being cashless sounds almost like you get broke, right?
Exactly.
They want to create a
Exactly.
cashless society.
Then how would it work for purchases online?
Well, there are certain things, as we say, we cannot be perfect, right? So there are certain things we cannot avoid. However, I can give you an example of trying to be coherent with what we say in metanoia. We were looking for an external hard drive, and we found my brother found it on Amazon. And then I said, well, I don't want to give money to this big international retailer. I want to give money to perhaps an Italian retailer because I'm Italian, and you might want to give it to a French one or to a German one or to a smaller one. So we looked around and we found that there is an online shop that offered the same product at a lower price, and we bought it. So just by doing that exercise, okay, we still pay with a card, but that extra profit didn't go to Amazon, who then probably has a very good way not to pay taxes, but it went to a small shop in the center of Italy that has got an online shops. And it means that the person there, the family there, has got an additional 5, 10 euros in their bank account, right?
Yeah, I think I started doing the same when I want to buy a product. I look on the secondhand website,
Hmm.
secondhand products. And sometimes like on the secondhand products, they're like brand new, like they're still like they're, the products has never been used. So that's another
Yes.
way of perhaps paying cash and at the same time encouraging individuals or small shop owners and then obviously paying cash.
Yes, and we have, I think it's important that when we talk, when we buy something that is used, or when we go to the small shop, we need to tell them why we are doing that. We cannot just go there and let them think, oh, we've been a lucky day. The people need to realize that there are people who, and there are many of us, we are talking about millions of people that are making an effort to change the system. So we don't want, for example, the local shop owner to then go and spend all his money on, on big online retailers. We would encourage them as we are helping them for them to help other shop owners as them. And it's in this way that we reclaim the money, first of all, and then the influence and everything else. There is another point which we discussed the other day, Safad, about the trends. The fact that people there has been this idea that has been really manufactured in the last century of being trendy, right? And this huge pressure that there is on people, on young people above all, to be trendy, to dress in a certain way, or to have the newest item or the coolest item.
Phone, that
And
latest phone.
yes, yes. And we need really to fight back against that because, that seems something coming. There was a very interesting novel called Brave New World, written by Huxley in 1920s, where they were talking about this hyper consumeristic society. And one of the sentences was like, the less stitches, the more riches. Basically, the less you repair things, the more people get rich. But in reality, with this trend, we are really destroying the earth and giving lots of money to like this top 1%. And do we want to talk about the last topic?
Yeah, but
Associate.
just jump on that. Yesterday, I was watching a documentary on IKEA and Ingar,
Okay.
and I suppose that's the name of the entrepreneur. You're like, yes, I'm stingy. Everybody knows I'm stingy. So the funny thing is that most like billionaires and the ultra rich, they don't spend a lot of money.
No, exactly, exactly. There is that attachment to money, that idea where they start to go into competitions on whose net worth becomes higher.
But
And
also a lot of them, they're not into that consumption mode. Like we would think that they can buy anything they want, they can indulge. But they're not really interested in actually acquiring more stuff.
Exactly, exactly. It's the mindset of acquire more wealth, more wealth producing assets, and all of that comes with it. So it's important that we also try to re-educate ourselves from consuming to investing, or from consuming to saving, or from consuming to not having a credit card debt, or
Mm.
massive debts to pay off. Okay, so the last part that we want to discuss today is something a bit different from spending money, saving money, buying local, and all of that. It's the need for us to really rejoin local associations and local politics. because one of the things that you mentioned, Safa, is that these ultra rich people, but also the very rich, they use the regulations in their favor. And how does that work? I can give you a very simple example. In the city where I live, there is a new mayor and a new political class. And what they've done is they're trying to privatize the public transport company and give it to and make it into a tender. So they want to launch a tender, privatize it, and give this to a private company. Now, obviously, the private company has relationships with this political class in this city, and and this is basically selling a public asset or giving public money that now goes to a public company to a private company that will not be able to cover the same things, will not be able to offer the same service, and there will be around 400 jobs that are going to be probably lost in the public sector and being subcontracted to the private sector that will then probably use contracts that are not very good, the people will not have the skill, and the whole job situation will be very precarious. Now, what can you do about it? Well, if you join a local association and you are joining local political parties, above all progressive parties, you can start to ask questions. Say, well, is this legal? What is the connection between this and that? What is the position of the other political parties? Can you publicly state as a political party that you want to destroy this public company? Now, if nobody is in these associations, or if we are always delegating to other people to do this job, then their voice becomes weaker and weaker. But if we all join, then these public companies will be protected. And it goes from public transport to public health to education to the taxation regime. So it's tiring. It is very tiring. It's difficult. We all are really overwhelmed with the amount of work that we need to do.
Mhm.
However, if we can, we really have to think, okay, should I join a local association? Should I just be a member of a party and see what's going on and, you know, spread the information? Because also with the control of information that the ultra rich have got, it becomes difficult to let people know the truth. There is so much misinformation.
Exactly. That's a very important point because a lot of these billionaires, they buy media outlets
Mhm.
and they control the information that we consume. So it's information that is biased towards them, like it's putting them into, like it's helping them show or advance their positions. And it's not like very objective journalism or reporting.
It,
So it becomes dangerous when billionaires control the media.
yes, because you end up in the situation where people unwillingly start to support narratives, start to support ideas that go against their own interest. And it's insane. But this happens because we let it happen. So just to give, I think we are running a little bit over over the time. So just to conclude, we'd say we want really to take some simple actions like shopping local. Always think, is this something big and corporate? Then let's look for an alternative. Try to pay with cash and try to be involved in local politics. These are really the three, four main points of metanoia, I would say. Would you agree with that, Safa?
Right. With that said, how can we make, these simple actions even simpler so that people don't get discouraged and they just go ahead and take at least one action? What do we suggest?
Well, we had this discussion the other day, right? It's we are going to continue to give ideas, and you should take what you like and experiment with that, leave the rest, and then come back and see how other people also are doing. We've got a newsletter where we're going to publish some success stories, some ideas, and we just have to realize that it's a process. We we don't want to be perfect from day one. It's just a process of changing the tilt, we could say, the slope of the system, so that more money stays with the majority of the people.
Is it hard work, Gabriele, to like question every single purchase that we have to make, every single decision that we have to make? Because, like I said previously, most of us are running on autopilot, and even now, like in today's world, we're consuming the same thing. Like you're in Italy, you can buy off Amazon. I'm in France, I can buy off Amazon. You're in Italy, you can watch Netflix. I'm in France. So the world is pretty much using the same companies for
It is
most services that we use.
It is hard work in a way, but when you move out from, I mean, for example, when I moved out from watching Netflix movies to restart to study Chinese, I felt much better about myself because, I said, well, I'm not giving money to Netflix. I'm learning Chinese. It's something that is making my life richer and opening up nice opportunities. So I think it's work. We have to accept that it's going to be some work, but the reward is massive because then you are without debt, you're living more life and spending less money, and you're making also much more meaningful connections.
Okay, wonderful. Wonderful.
Yeah,
I mean, it's all about the transformation, which is something that I'm still working on myself. And it's
yeah,
nice to hear your story because it's helped me have some ideas and be inspired, and hopefully this channel Metanoia will be a space for us to encourage one another, to support one another, and inspire
indeed.
one another for a better future, not only for us but for the future generations.
For everybody. Yeah. Thank you very much, everybody. And please join the newsletter, subscribe to the channel, and come back for more because we will be back with more interesting topics. Have a nice day. Bye bye.
Bye.